So an event like this is weird for me, if I'm honest, because I usually get invited to go to these industry events where people pay money to do other things and sort of they're forced to listen to me. And so it's an odd experience to meet a bunch of people who spent money to come and see me when there's perfectly good television on tonight. So thank you. I'm just not used to it. I'm also the first to admit that I'm embarrassed that I have a career. This is starting to sound like a stand-up bit. But genuinely, I'm embarrassed that I have a career. I talk about things like trust and cooperation, and there should be no demand for my work. And the fact that there is demand for my work is, I think, an opportunity, because it means that these things are lacking in the places that we work. And the fact that people want to learn about them and read about them and hopefully advance those ideas themselves is a good sign. It means that the workplaces in which we're very often forced to work, that there's an army of us who are out there working to change it. I know many of you chose to be here. Some of you were dragged. No, I'm not being funny. They came up to me before and said, "I don't know who you are. My friend told me I had to come today." That's not a joke. They're actually forced to be here. But I'm fully aware that I'm just a talking head. I'm fully aware that I'm just a guy with ideas who has had the great fortune that organizations like the TED organization or like Penguin Books have afforded me the amazing opportunity to share those ideas with broader audiences. But talk is cheap. And I'm fully aware that without folks like you who take the ideas and build businesses based on those ideas, who lead teams based on those ideas, who push your own boundaries, who take your own risks, and who try things that none of these ideas that I talk about in very idealistic terms would ever come to life. And so it is I who am grateful to you that you're willing to try and experiment and do these things. And let us be clear, the work that we have, the amount of work that we have to do is great. We are fighting an uphill battle. Many of the business philosophies that exist today are leftovers. They're the results of theories from the 80s and 90s. That's basically what we're living in. Unfortunately, high numbers of this, what we consider standard business practices today, are throwbacks. The concept of shareholder supremacy, for example, where you put the price of the equity ahead of the health of the company, the health of the employees, even the customer. That concept was a theory proposed in the late 1970s. Okay? The concept of mass layoffs, using mass layoffs to balance the books, using someone's livelihood so that you can meet your arbitrary projections, right? That's what that is, did not exist in the United States prior to the 1980s. Did not exist, right? In other words, a lot of the theories that we consider normal today were developed and proposed in the 80s and 90s when they were boom years, when it was relative peace, where we had a kinder, gentler Cold War. We were no longer running drills in our schools, practicing hiding underneath our desks. Like, those times were very different. They were good years. Jeff Immelt, who was the CEO of GE, who took over from Jack Welch, even he said in the 80s, a dog could have run a business. Quote, unquote. Right? And so the theories that were being developed were very, very selfishly driven because everyone could make money. And the problem is they were popularized and advanced by people like Jack Welch, and they become normal now. That, especially for a young generation who's entering the workforce, they literally cannot conceive of a time where layoffs were not normal. Think about that for a second. We're going to use the life of a human being, that's what we're doing, to balance the books for 1 year. Right? You're going to send somebody home and have them tell their families, I can no longer provide for us because the company missed their arbitrary projections. That's what's happening. And forget about the people who lose their jobs. Think about the people who kept their jobs. Because every decision a company makes is a piece of communication. And in one fell swoop, leadership has announced to their entire organization that we care about a number more than we care about you. This is not a meritocracy. We don't care how long you've worked here. We don't even care how good you are. If you happen to be in the wrong division, if you happen to show up on the wrong day, if you happen to be hired in the wrong dates, we will use you to protect ourselves. It is the antithesis of the anthropological and biological definition of what leadership is. And this is one of the reasons that we have such distaste and bad taste in our mouth when we talk about CEOs, politicians, these people, because they're not good leaders. We have a distinct lack of good leadership, definitely in our nation and across the world. It wasn't that long ago where you could rattle off the names of great leaders, people who seem to exist on levels above their own position, right? I mean, let's go back to the 80s. You had Ronald Reagan, Margaret Thatcher, Václav Havel, Lee Iacocca. You had, what was his name over in Lech Walesa in Poland. These were people who led huge armies of people. They inspired. They gave us something to believe in. You go back and listen to Ronald Reagan's first inaugural address or John F. Kennedy's inaugural address. So Democrat, Republican, I don't care, right? They used the terms peace on earth in their inaugural addresses. They believed in world peace. Even talking about it now, it sounds like a punchline, right? Like we've lost idealism. I remember when having discussions during the primaries that the number of my friends who would tell me that everything that Bernie Sanders was proposing was stupid and unrealistic. That's what idealism is. It's stupid and unrealistic. That's kind of the point. It's an imagined world. I mean, the Declaration of Independence, all men are created equal. It's kind of stupid and idealistic. But the goal is to strive for that. That's what idealism is. We all know we'll never actually get there. We know that. We know that our country will never be perfectly equal. We know that. But we will die trying to make it that way. That's the point. And that's what these nonsense idealistic ideas give us. They give us purpose and they give us direction. They give our lives and our work something to work towards. But when we don't have that, the only thing we're left with is the metric. And when we're junior, that's fine. Your first promotion, your first big raise, let me tell you, you feel pretty valuable. But after your 6th or 7th or 8th raise, or your 5th or 6th or 7th promotion, you're making more money than you've ever made. You have more responsibility and more authority than you've ever had, and yet it doesn't feel so good anymore. And the reason is because we no longer know, or we don't feel that all of that work is contributing to something bigger than ourselves, something stupid and unrealistic, something idealized and idealistic. And we don't have leaders preaching idealism. I know there's a young generation that's coming up through the workforce, and they talk about making an impact. I want to make an impact, right? That's good. But what impact do you want to have? It's not specific enough. It's too broad. It's too abstract. And as human beings, we're just not biologically constructed for abstract concepts. We struggle with them. If you've heard any of my talks, I like to joke, here's an example of how we're no good with abstraction. I will give you a bonus if you accomplish more. How much more, you ask? More. No good. Doesn't work. Give me a number, give me a goal, something I can figure out a plan to get there. I'm good. But we're no good. I want to make an impact. And so guess what we have? We have an entire generation that thinks that putting on a rubber band around your wrist or wearing a pair of Tom's shoes, check it out, I'm giving, right? Not really service. Service is going to a soup kitchen and standing there for a few hours and slopping mashed potatoes on someone's plate. That's service. You want to help people in Africa, go to Africa. Go see what it's like. That's service. Service is uncomfortable. And service is sometimes dangerous. And service risks time and energy. you will give away your time and energy, and you will not get that time and energy back. If you buy a pair of Tom shoes and they're not comfortable, it's okay. You'll return them, you'll make more money, you'll buy a different pair. You know, you get my point. And there's a lack of giving of time and energy. And when it's abstract, it becomes very diffused. So, you know, I posted a picture of Trayvon on Facebook, and I forwarded the Coney video, and I texted a donation for tsunami relief. I'm a giver, right? It's not how it works. It's not how it works. You've got to give a huge amount of energy to very few things, not a little bit of energy to a lot of things. And we have a lack of that. And I don't blame anybody. I'm just saying it is one of the side effects of this crazy world we live in, where there's a lack of specific idealism, where we can articulate the world that we want to live in terms so clearly that others can imagine that world too. I use Dr. Martin Luther King because he was so good. He understood vision better than any of us. When he said, "I have a dream," we want to make an impact, right? No. He said, "I have a dream where one day little black children will hold hands on the playground with little white children." You can see that, and you can imagine it in your mind's eye, and you can will every part of your body to want to build that world, and you can use your own work. You can use your own family, you can use your own energy, you can use your own time to advance that cause, and you don't need anybody's help to do it. And you can rally your friends, and we will advance a good cause because we don't need the structure. We don't need somebody to watch over us or tell us what to do. This is why concepts like ISIL are very, very scary, because they're doing everything right from a leadership standpoint. They're giving purpose and cause. They're offering inspiration. They're offering belonging. And what that does is it allows people to use their own innovative heads. It allows them to use their own ingenuity to come up with ideas to advance this horrible cause. There is no leadership structure. They can act independently, and this is what I find so scary. But the opposite side of it is this is how you change the world for the good also. And we can't fight pessimism with bullets. We can only fight pessimism with optimism. And yet, where are our leaders? Where are our leaders? And I'm gone worrying about politics. I'm over it. You know, people always ask me, you know, you talk and write about leadership. You get questions about presidential elections a lot. I no longer blame our politicians. I think we get the politicians we deserve. I think it's us. I don't think they're the problem. I think we're the problem. We have selfish, egocentric, egotistical, ambitious, not the good kind, people running for office, presidents, senators, congressmen, the whole lot of them. And we're complaining about them. But guess who the selfish, egocentric, self-centered, narcissistic bastards are? We get the politicians we deserve, quite frankly. And I think not until we start taking some accountability for our behavior, our actions, the way we lead our teams, can we blame anybody else. I think you have to actually earn the right to complain, right? Which is, you earn the right to complain by trying in some small way. I don't mean exhausting all possibilities. But you have to have tried in some small manner to fix the problem yourself. Then and only then do you earn the right to complain that leadership has failed or is failing. You don't get to sit back in your armchair and do nothing and blame your CEO and blame this. And you don't get to do it unless you're trying to be the leader you wish you had every single day of your life, which is unbelievably hard work. But here's the main thing, the amazing thing, is it's a skill like any other. It can be learned and it can be practiced. And here's the other part that we have to abandon from the 80s and the 90s. We cannot do it alone. We cannot do it alone. The 80s and 90s promoted this go-alone mentality. You and only you can prevent forest fires. And the reality is it's just not true. It's just not true. I've had the great fortune, maybe I'll tell the story the long way. I've had the great fortune of spending time with men and women in uniform. And I've met people who risk their lives to save the lives of others. I've met them. And I asked them, why'd you do it? For those of you who read Leaders Eat Last, I start the story with Johnny Bravo. I start the book by Johnny Bravo, and he's a real person, by the way. And he stands like this, because that's kind of the way he is. He just stands like this. And I asked him, you've got a wife, you've got kids. No one would have ordered you to do what you did. No one would have faulted you if you didn't do what you did. Why did you do it? And he and others like him all give the same answer, because they would have done it for me. They would have done it for me. It's this undying trust. It's this undying belief that the people on my team have my back. I believe that courage is not an internal fortitude. I believe that courage is an external thing. Right? I don't believe that you dig down deep and find the courage. I just don't believe it. We have courage when we know that someone has our back. When someone says, I believe in you. You got this. I will continue to believe in you when you stop believing in yourself. That's what gives us courage. That's what gives us the ability to find some extra energy because we want to prove to those people who believed in us, who risked their reputations for us, that we were worth it. We want to make them proud. Courage is external. And so if we're not taking care of each other, if we're not putting ourselves out and risking our time and energy to believe in people, to teach people, to take care of people, then who has the courage to act to change the world? No one. That's the problem. Everybody's scared. And we can't complain, remember? We have to earn the right to complain, which means we have to try to fix the problem ourselves. No one is a leader because you're at the top of the organization. We are leaders because we chose to take the risk first. You can be the most junior person in the company, but when you decide to take care of the person to the left of you and take care of the person to the right of you, you become a leader. I'll tell you two stories. They both happen to be military stories, which is just a coincidence. The first one ended up on the cutting room floor from Leaders Eat Last. And it's the story of a Lieutenant Colonel Dee Haill. She might be a colonel now. She's a remarkable human being. She's just one of the most wonderful people I've ever met. I've known her for a while. Dee had three things happen to her, all at the same time. Any one of those things would have been difficult, but the fact that all three happened at once, well, you can imagine. Dee was promoted to Lieutenant Colonel, so she's now management. She was given her first command, and she was deployed to Iraq for 365 days, all at once, right? Congratulations, you're promoted. Here's your first command. It's in Iraq. Bye. Good luck. She was to be in charge of all of base services at Balad Air Base in Iraq. That means all of the food halls, the laundry, the housing, the morale events like fun runs, they were under her purview. It was a notoriously poorly led group, and the previous 5 leaders had been fired. Dee's an A-type personality. She's a hard driver. She was promoted early, and she's ambitious, and she understands all the leadership theory. She's a good person, motivated by the right reasons. And Dee was going to do it right. Dee was going to turn this group around. Dee was going to be successful. And Dee came in with all of her ideas and all of her theories, and it wasn't working. She had soldiers and airmen who reported to her, some of them with way more experience than she had, and they didn't take her seriously. They didn't listen to her. They scoffed at her. She tried everything. She tried being nice. She tried issuing orders and pulling rank. None of it worked. Every single night for the first 6 months that Dee was in Iraq, she cried herself to sleep. She regretted being in the Air Force. She regretted serving her country. She didn't want to be there. She wanted to go home. And there's nothing she could do. And so this hard-driving A-type personality lay in her bed in Iraq and gave up. She gave up. She came to peace with the fact that she was a failure. She would not turn this base around. She would not be the one. And she resigned herself to the fact that as she's already failed, she was going to now use all of her energy for the only thing she could think to use it for, was to take care of her people and ensure that they have a good time every day they come to work, because they're also away from their families and they're also stuck in a place they don't want to be. And so instead of worrying about the results, Dee became obsessed with worrying about whether her people just had a good day. And strange things started to happen. Even the way she led, even the way she gave feedback completely changed. So for example, if they organized a fun run on base, any other day, she would have been given feedback live. Hey, next time we do that, let's move the finish line over there. Hey, next time we do that, just put the water, that's how she would do it. But now that Dee Dee was devoted to seeing that her people enjoyed coming to work every day, she saw things that were wrong, sure. But she decided, you know what, let them have a good day. I'll tell them later. And at the end of the event, they all sat down and she gave her feedback. And they were way more receptive to it. Strange things started to happen, and at the end of 6 months, that base was completely turned around. It was one of the most successful commands that they'd ever had. And Dee Dee remains friends with most of the people who worked for her to this day. She's friends with none of the people from the first 6 months. That's what I mean by leadership, which is we actually put our own goals and our own personal ambitions aside to take care of the people around us. That's what leadership is. So where does purpose come from? I'll tell you a story that I don't tell that often, so I'll do the quick version of it. And it's a personal story of how I learned what real fulfillment means and where it comes from. A few years ago, August of 2011 to be exact, I went to Afghanistan. I did a lot of work with the mobility forces in the Air Force, which is the people who are responsible for the big heavy planes, so your tankers and your cargo planes, even Air Force One. All the things that don't go boom is what they take care of. And the general in charge of the mobility forces, he says, Simon, you do so much work with us. You've got to know us really well. I would be really honored if you would be willing to go and see our men and women actually perform their duties. Would you be willing to go to Iraq or Afghanistan? And I said, yes. And so they picked Afghanistan. And I didn't tell my family because I didn't want them to worry. I told them that I was going away with the Air Force. True. I told them I'd be on a lot of planes, I'd be out of touch for a few days. True. I told them I was going to Germany. True. I just didn't tell them that we caught a plane from Germany to... I left that out. Because I didn't want them to worry. And so we left Dover Air Base, and we flew to Germany. And then we caught a plane, and we flew to Afghanistan. I had 2 escorts that went with me, 2 officers who were assigned to take care of me. I had no particular responsibilities. I was going as an observer. We landed in Bagram at about 10 o'clock at night, and we hadn't even got off the plane yet. We were on the ground for maybe 10 minutes. The big side door on the side of the KC-135 was open. Like I said, we were still on the plane, and the base came under rocket attack. 3 rockets hit 100 yards off our nose. You could hear them come in. Now, for any of you who've ever been in a war zone, you'll know this, which is you have all of the feelings you would expect to have, you just don't have them at the right times. Weirdly, I was relaxed. I think because everyone else was relaxed. The panic came later. Finally, the all clear was given. The sirens stopped blaring, and we went to our housing. The goal was to do an airdrop mission that day, and there was one leaving first thing in the morning, so we got about 2.5 hours, 3 hours of sleep, and we went to do this airdrop. What an amazing experience, once-in-a-lifetime experience that I got to do, where we boarded a C-17, just the 3 of us. We flew out about an hour and a half, 2 hours to the middle of nowhere in Afghanistan. The back of the C-17 opened. All of this cargo, this fuel, water, and ammunition flew out of the back of the plane. We sat right there. Parachutes opened, and we supplied an Army forward operating base. Incredible experience. And then we flew back to Bagram. Now the goal was to get out of Dodge. The primary reason we were there was so that we could do this airdrop, and now the goal was to get out of Dodge. We went looking for a flight because everything is not normally scheduled and everything's up to the discretion of the pilots. We found an outbound aeromedical mission, which means taking wounded warriors out of theater. We asked the pilots if we could get on board. They said yes, and then we waited and waited and waited and waited. There's a lot of waiting. And finally, we were given the all clear. We're sitting on the plane. We're all strapped in. We're ready to come home, and the pilots came up to us and said, "Gotta bump you. We need more room for stretchers. If there's ever a good reason to get bumped off a plane, this is the one." We got off the plane. We went looking for another flight. And that's when we found out there were no other flights heading in our direction until Tuesday. It was only Saturday. And there was no guarantee we would get on any of those flights. I was now stuck in Afghanistan for at least 4 days, maybe more, and no way to call home. And even if I did call home, what am I going to say? I'm going to be late. Where are you? And it was that point on receiving that news that every fiber of my being sank into my feet. I remember that feeling. I remember losing all of my energy, all of my motivation, all of my excitement. It just drained out of me. And I remember becoming paranoid. I remember being convinced, absolutely convinced, that there was going to be another rocket attack and it was going to land on me. I was convinced. I remember becoming that boss that many of us have had. I became completely preoccupied with one thing and one thing only: my safety, my happiness, my comfort, and I didn't care who had to bend themselves into knots to get me what I wanted. I became that boss that many of us have worked for at some point in our careers, who cares about their promotion, their bonus, and they don't care what happens to us as long as they get what they want. That was me. I could feel myself becoming something I hated. I remember one of the public affairs officers said, "I can get you on a flight to Kyrgyzstan, but you don't have the right visa," to which I said to him, "You get me on that plane." I don't talk to people that way. But I did, and I could feel it. I could see it. We went back to the housing. I was exhausted. We were all exhausted. We hadn't slept very much in 3 or 4 days. And I lay down on the bed and closed my eyes. I couldn't sleep. My mind was racing. One of the guys said, "I'm going to see if I can find us another flight." He left. Then the other officer said, "Well, I'm going to go to the gym then." And he thought I was asleep. And so as he walked out, he turned out the lights and left me there, lying in the dark, my head spinning. And all the paranoia, all the regret. I didn't want to be there. I regretted saying yes. I felt powerless and out of control. I hated every moment of it. I felt sick to my stomach. I felt angry. I had no good emotions. And I'm in the purpose business, right? So I knew that I had no responsibility. I had no reason for being there. I had no purpose. So I tried to come up with one. I tried to back into it, right? Like, you're here to tell their story. And it would work for like 5 minutes. And then it would go away. And I think a lot of companies do that. They'll make up something, and it feels good when they're in the offsite, and then you come home. Doesn't really do anything. That was what I was doing, and it wasn't working. And so, like Dee Dee, I lay in the bed and I gave up, because everything that I tried to do and think of wasn't working. And so I gave up. I realized that I was stuck. And so I made the decision that if I'm going to get stuck here, I might as well make myself useful. I would volunteer to speak wherever and to whomever they wanted, as often as they wanted. I would volunteer. I'd met some amazing people while I was there. I wanted to help them in any way I could. I would sweep floors. I would carry boxes. I did not care how menial the labor. I just wanted to contribute. I wanted to serve those who served others. Upon making this decision, this overwhelming calm came over me. I remember feeling completely at peace. I was even excited to be there. All the fear and paranoia just literally evaporated from every fiber of my being. It was gone. I was excited to serve those who served others. The timing was uncanny. Upon coming to this conclusion, the door flung open. It was Major Throckmorton. He ran into the room. He goes, "There's another flight. It's been redirected. We can get on this flight if we leave now. We have to leave now. Where's Matt?" I said, "He's at the gym." So we jumped up, we ran to the gym, we got him off the treadmill, we ran back, there was no time for him to shower, he put his uniform back on, we grabbed our stuff, we put it on our backs, and we ran out to the flight line. As soon as we got to the flight line, we could see the plane we were going to get on. It was a big C-17, big cargo plane. We could see it sitting there. That was our plane. And as soon as we got to the flight line, a security cordon came down and wouldn't let us out to the plane. And the reason was because somewhere else on base, they were having a fallen soldier ceremony. And out of respect, all base operations cease while they have the ceremony. So we sat on the curb and waited. And while we sat on the curb, I told the guys what I went through moments before in the bedroom. And I cried like a baby. I mean, I cried. I wept. And for any of you who have family in the military or may have served in the military, you know this well. Crying is just fine. The guys listened. Finally, the security cordon went up, and we walked out to our flight home. What I haven't told you is the reason this flight was redirected is that we would be carrying home the soldier for whom they just had the fallen soldier ceremony. We would be the only 3 passengers aboard this empty cargo plane. We climbed aboard, and the Army brought the flag-draped casket on board. The Air Force crew stood at attention. I'm a civilian. I put my hand on my heart. I kind of felt like an idiot. So I stood there at attention with them. We all stood in a perfectly straight line at the back of the plane. As they laid the casket in front of us, they did a slow 8-count salute. They marched off the plane. We watched them hugging and crying as they walked out of sight. The Air Force crew got to work and they strapped down our precious cargo. On every other flight that I was on, we joked, we talked. Barely a word was spoken in our 9.5-hour flight back to Ramstein, back to Germany. On every other flight, I visited the cockpit, I hung out with the crew. I didn't visit the cockpit once. We sat down on these little fold-down seats on the side of the plane. There was the casket. And as soon as we were in the air, we all scoped out a piece of real estate, pulled out our sleeping bags to try and get some sleep, just put sleeping bags on the metal floor. I slept right there. I slept right next to him, 34 years old, wife and 3 kids. From Los Angeles, actually. He's buried here. And I'll tell you, it was the greatest honor of my life. I talk about and write about service like I know what it means. I can tell you, it was the greatest honor of my life to bring home someone who knows a lot more about service than I ever will. And that's when I learned what fulfillment really is. Fulfillment is not to be confused with happiness. I had an amazing day. I was there for 30 hours or something in Afghanistan, and I had an amazing time. I got to do something that most people will never get to do, and it was exciting, but I didn't want to do it again, right? And I think we confuse the thrills of business, the thrills of our jobs with fulfillment, winning the big client, getting the big promotion, getting the bonus. It is amazing, it is fun, and the feeling is fantastic until it goes away a few days or a few weeks later. Not a single person in this room has any sense of amazement at that raise you got 2 years ago. Right? It's gone. Fulfillment, however, is different. That feeling lasts. You can have a good day or a bad day, and you carry that feeling with you every day of your life. And that feeling comes from one thing and one thing only: service to another human being. Not everybody. This is not Mother Teresa stuff. Right? Service to those who serve others. The pride comes when you serve those who serve others because you feel that the energy that you are giving to someone else will be scaled by them. And that's what gives your work purpose, that you will see change happen around you, not because of you, but because of those you give and those you empower and those you believe in and those you serve. Our last flight home from Germany was an aeromedical evacuation. We were bringing home 30-something wounded warriors. And there was a Marine at the back of the plane in what they call CCAT. He was kept in an artificial coma because of his wounds. His buddy stepped on an IED and was killed. He took the shrapnel. He had 2 broken legs, broken arms, shrapnel in the chest, broken eye socket, punctured eyeball. I've not seen a body this broken in my life, and I stayed away from the back of the plane because it was uncomfortable. I finally mustered up the courage and went to the back of the plane, and I talked to the docs, and they were amazing. There were these doctors assigned to him and him only, 4 doctors. Everywhere else there were nurses looking after all the others. He had 4 doctors looking after him. The guy in charge was a reservist. He's a doctor, an ER doc out of Austin. And I asked him a question that I would not have asked him had I not had my experience just a few hours earlier. I asked him, I said, "You're a good guy. You work in an ER, you save lives for a living." I said, "Is there something different about these missions? Do you find, what do these missions make you feel like? Do they feel good? Are they fulfilling?" He looked at me and he said, "Are we off the record? You know you're going to get a good answer." I'm like, "Yeah, we're off the record." He said, "It's nothing like working back home." He said, "Back in the ER, 90% of the people who come through the ER are either drunks or idiots." He says, "There's not a single drunk or idiot here." He says, "I cannot get the feeling that I get on these missions back home." In other words, he was serving those who serve others. This was the impetus for Leaders Eat Last. It was that experience that I had in Afghanistan, that I had to figure out where trust and cooperation came from. I saw these people who loved each other. They called themselves brother and sister. We call each other colleagues and co-workers. It's a different relationship. And I wanted to work with brothers and sisters. I didn't want to work with colleagues and co-workers. And I set out to understand where trust and cooperation came from. And that's when I learned it's about taking care of each other. That's what it's all about. That's why I put this little book together. It's not a big thinky book with anthropology and biology. It's a simple little metaphor with a simple little message. Just take care of each other, and it goes fine. And you overcome difficulty when we take care of each other. That's all it is. It's a silly little message that sometimes I think we forget, that we have a responsibility to ask for help when we need it and accept it when it's offered. It's amazing how many people want to help us, but they don't, because we're too busy lying, hiding, and faking and pretending that we don't need it, and so they don't give it to us, because they just didn't think we needed it. And the minute we have the courage to say, I made a mistake, I'm in over my head, I don't know what I'm doing, I got promoted in a position that I don't know how to do the job, I'm afraid. The minute we're willing to say those things out loud to someone, and they go, oh, I can help you, why don't you just say so? It's amazing how many people want to help us if you're willing to admit that you need help or you're willing to accept it when it's offered. I'm living proof of it. For those who work with me, you know I'm an idiot. And I wouldn't be standing here if it were me, I can tell you that. I'd be drooling on myself with all these ideas about how to change the world and no one will listen to me. I'm only here because of you. I know that. I couldn't do anything that I do if I didn't get to serve those who serve others. People always ask me, what can I do to help you sell books? What can I do to help advance the message? You know what you can do? You can do it. I have the luxury of just writing about it. You gotta do it. Because we have to reverse all of the stuff that those bastards from the 80s and 90s entrenched in our culture. It took them 20 years to screw it up. It's going to take us 20 years to put it right. This ain't no quick fix. It's going to take a lot of people to work really hard. And some of us will fail, and some of us will lose our jobs, and some of us will get in trouble. And the only thing I can say to reassure you is, I got your back, we're here for you, we believe in you. Call one of us. I think more valuable than me on the stage is that I hope you meet somebody new while you're here. Because this is an entire room of people who I know showed up for a singular message, except for the ones who were dragged by their friends. This is proof. This is proof that we will undo what they did. We will not win every battle, but we will win the war. Not all of the businesses that we know how to lead right will succeed, but most of them will. Not everyone who works in our companies and works with us will go home with a feeling of intense fulfillment, but most, the vast majority will. And we will prove to the world, we'll prove to the naysayers, we will prove to the ones who say that we are stupid and naive and idealistic, that that's a good thing. And all we got is each other. I promise you that together is better. I promise you. Good? Thank you. Usually these book launch things, people read an excerpt from the book, but I realized if I did that, I'd finish it. So you can just read it yourself. Do I have time for questions, or did I blow it and use it all up? All right. Should we take some questions?
Yeah, if you raise your hand, I'll bring
Here, we got one up here.
I'll bring the microphone to you.
Try to get through this without shaking. Thank you
My pleasure. Thank you.
for serving. Thank you for serving. I work for the largest toy company in the world. That is now a purpose-driven organization. It's in the middle of a turnaround. It's headed in the right direction. I'm sitting with some engines that could, and we are giving our blood, sweat, tears to be organizers of change from the bottom up. We have an advocate at the top who is committed to this change. Outside of perseverance and tenacity and courage, what advice do you have for us to keep on going?
Yeah, that stuff. I mean, I hate to sound like a broken record, but you have to know why you're doing it. Impact. It's not good enough, you know? I want to know in specific terms the world you're trying to build, that you are using your company to help build. The company is incidental. What the company does is incidental. Whether you make toilet paper or toys, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you see that the culture of this company and what the company can do can actually advance something bigger than yourselves. So, you know, almost everywhere I speak or everywhere I write down my vision, because you gotta share it and share it and share it. I imagine a world in which the vast majority of people will wake up every single morning inspired to go to work, feel safe when they're there, and return home and fulfilled by their work at the end of the day. And so all that I do, speaking, writing, teaching, who I am as a friend, it doesn't matter, is to advance that singular vision. You gotta share that. So, we want to lift humanity through play. Can I tinker? Yes. No pun intended? Yes. So a good why is about contribution and impact. The order matters, right? I can prove it, right? So you've all had this experience where you get an email. We've all had this experience where you get an email that says, hey, haven't talked to you in years, hope you're doing well, congratulations on all your success, I've seen what you've been up to, we should really get a drink sometime, it's been a long time. Also, if you could please visit this website and vote for me, I'm trying to, right? We've all had that email, and you're just like, come on, and you hit delete. Because we know why they sent it. They didn't want to reconnect with us, they just wanted something from us. We know why, right? But what if they sent an email that says, hey, could you please click on this link and vote for me? I'm trying to win this thing. Also, haven't seen you in years. Heard you're doing really great. Congratulations on all your success. We should get a coffee sometime. It's fine. In other words, you don't have to butter people up to get to your point. Just get to your point. In other words, the order matters. And so we don't want to start with the result. We want to start with the action. Lift the world up. Is that what it was? Yes. Lift the world up would be the result. If everything goes right, the world will be lifted. But that doesn't tell me your contribution. What you want the world to do is play so that they will lift up. Because I can't show up to work every day and be like, everybody lift up. You're like, go away. I'm busy. You go lift yourself up. But if you're constantly showing up every day, it's like Dee Dee figuring out taking care of the people. It's like me learning to serve those who serve others. It's like that email that just comes out and says what I need you to do. What I need you to do is figure out ways we can play. Find ways we can play, and the more ways we can figure out how to play, we will lift the world up. And as toy designers, you'll figure toys out that others can play. As accountants, you'll figure out how to bring joy in filling out forms and receiving paychecks. No, I'm not joking. Because if it's about play, you can put funny things on people's pay stubs. But you wouldn't have come up with that if you didn't put play first. You gotta have something to do to contribute to the world. You're welcome. Try and give shorter answers.
So I assume most of us work at companies. Most of these companies have probably what we consider pretty tedious interview process and hiring process.
Uh-huh.
And so I know at our company, we all sit, we plan, we interview, we want to make sure they're the right fit for the culture. But the people you talk about, the brothers and sisters, none of them go through a hiring process.
Yeah.
If they can shoot a gun, they're there. So the Army's pretty easy to get into these days. They'll take relatively anyone for the baseline. So I'm curious about what you think about hiring, the kind of the process that we all go through when you talk about these people that are brothers and sisters, but none of them select each other.
Sure.
They're all put there.
Sure. So let's dispel a myth, first of all, which is everybody knows when they're joining the Army that there's service to their country. Whether they did it for the college education or because they were drawn to the calling, is they know that they're going to be serving their country. We call it the service, right? So let's not diminish the fact that that does exist. And though in the military, they think that private sector has the advantage because they get to pick their teams, we're assuming that we're hiring and firing the right people, which we're not, right? So what the military gets in spades is a group of people who at least all believe in something or know why they're there. And some of them fall in love with it later. And if you take the more elite organizations, they're really, really good at recruiting and weeding out those who are just there to, as you say, shoot a gun, right? There's a true story of a bunch of recruiters that go to a high school, and the Army recruiter stands up and says, let me tell you why you want to be in the Army, and he sells the Army, to your point, right? And the Navy recruiter stands up and says, no, let me tell you why the Navy's better. The Air Force recruiter stands up and says, they're both wrong, let me tell you why you want to join the Air Force. The Marine recruiter finally stands up, and he walks to the front of the stage, no PowerPoint, and he goes like this. He goes, I don't want any of you. You have to understand that the Marine Corps is the most difficult thing you'll ever do in your life emotionally and physically, and I don't think there's a single person in this room who has what it takes to be in my Marine Corps. If you think I'm wrong, I'll be standing at the back. The only people who went to talk to him who thought that that was really cool. In other words, they recruit really well. And they understand what it takes to recruit. So, coming back to private sector, I think we make the mistake in private sector, which is we hire and fire too quickly. Right? Get the right people on the bus. What bus? Who's driving the bus? In which direction is the bus going? You know? What I've learned is we keep thinking it's the people. If the team's dysfunctional, change all the people. If we had a bad year, change the people. We're not changing the leaders that often. And 99 times out of 100, it's not the people, it's the leaders. Because the people will respond to the environments they're in, and leaders set the environments. And so I think recruiting to higher cause absolutely matters. Giving people a cause once they're there absolutely matters. That they understand there's going to be a base minimum requirement, like when they join the military. Everybody understands there's a base minimum requirement, right? Yeah, I won't get into those things. And I think we in private sector do a terrible, terrible job of that. I mean, look at universities right now. Universities literally advertise why you should choose them because of what the average salary their graduates get when they leave. And then we wonder why we get what we get. That's how our universities are recruiting. That's how our business schools are recruiting. As opposed to, join our school. We will give you the skills to lead teams, change the world. And guess what you're going to get? So I think we are very short-sighted in almost everything we're doing. And it goes right back to what I was saying at the beginning of this talk, which is this is throwback from the 80s and 90s. And we're always recruiting for the shortest possible time frames. And business schools curse them. They run like businesses now. Ted Koppel says that there used to be a time when we gave people the news they needed even if they didn't want it. Now we give people the news they want even if they don't need it. And I think that's what's happening in education. We're giving business school students the education they want even though they don't need it, but we're not giving them the education they need even if they don't want it. Everybody gets candy, nobody gets spinach, right? It's not right or wrong, it's just out of balance. So I would say that a lot of recruiting, tedious recruiting, is usually recruiting for the wrong skills. And then we get what we get. And because we have a loose view of people, we hire quickly and whatever, if you get it wrong, you just fire them, just replace them. What if you couldn't? And this is the one thing that the military has. You can't just fire someone. You have to coach them. You got to help them. You got to figure it out. They're much better at teaching leadership and they're not better at producing leaders because you can't just fire people. And so if you can't just fire people, A, you're going to be really, really careful who you hire. That's number one. And B, you're going to get really, really good at teaching leaders how to lead because you don't have a choice. The order matters. One more? Because we got a treat. We got Aloe here. I mean, it's a treat.
Yeah. First of all, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I know this talk is about leadership.
Yeah.
But I have a question about being a follower.
Yeah.
You know, if I may quote, I think it was Game of Thrones, that if you want to be a good leader, first you need to learn how to follow.
Yeah.
And I work in a smaller startup, and we have a very amazing CEO.
Yeah.
And I want to be more effective, be more impactful.
Sure.
And all those things.
Yeah.
So give us something about
Sure.
how to be a good follower.
Sure. So you remember, I have strict definitions of these things, right? Which is leadership has nothing to do with rank. It's not about being in charge. It's about taking care of those in your charge. And anyone can be a leader. It's nothing to do with rank or authority. That's simply rank and authority, right? The best leaders are the best followers, because none of them see themselves at the top. None of them see themselves as the final authority. They all see themselves in service to someone or something bigger than themselves. The Pope sees himself in service to something bigger. Martin Luther King saw himself in service to something bigger. John F. Kennedy, Ronald Reagan, I don't care what your politics are, right? They saw themselves in service to that crazy, naive, idealistic vision of the world. And so the best leaders are subservient to the cause. And so when that leader is a good follower, when that leader chooses to follow their people, hey boss, we want to go in this direction. If you think it's the right direction to go in, guys, then we'll go in that direction. When the leader is willing to follow, they truly become the leader. That takes courage. It takes courage to say, on you, I'll go in whatever direction you set. Give your people a problem to solve, and then stand back. And when you say, it's your decision, guys, I'm not getting involved. Because what that does is it switches the accountability, right? Because if they know that you swoop in and make all the decisions at the end, no risk, right? I love doing that when I do advisory work and I offer my point of view, and they start fighting with me and they go, well, we're not going to do that because blah, 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 blah. And I go, so don't do it. It's your business. I don't care. I want you to do well. But if you go bankrupt, I'm good. You know? And as soon as I do that, because what most people do, especially in the advice-giving world, and I don't mean professional advice givers, anybody, we all have advice to give. Well, we really should do this, you know? What we do is we defend our advice. It's what we do, and we take it personally. And we say, you got to do this. Why won't he listen to me? I care so much. I'm trying to help him grow his business. Why won't he listen to me? But the minute you go, you know what, do whatever you want. I'm telling you what I think. Take it or leave it. Your decision. All of a sudden they go, well, maybe you have a good idea there. So if you offer accountability, so when you give your team accountability, like, guys, here's the problem we face. I know how I would solve it, but I want you to solve it. If it fails, it fails. If it succeeds, it succeeds. It's on you. Watch the quality of work skyrocket when they're accountable for the outcome. And by the way, there are jobs that are not at risk, because we don't want them to operate out of fear. If they fail, you sit down with them and be like, all right, guys, how would you do it again? Like, they can't do it out of fear. You want them to do it out of contribution. But the best leaders are the best followers. Okay, now the real reason we're all here. So when I put this book together, you know, my whole thing is that the world is a little, I like digital stuff, I'm a nerd, I like gadgets, but what I rebel against is the imbalance. I'm okay if you use your phone, but don't use it when you're with your friends and family. When you go out for dinner with your friends and family, leave your phone at home, leave it in the car, leave it in your jacket, right? Like, it's the balance. Like, I think email is great, but you don't have to check it in the morning before you say good morning to the person sleeping next to you, right? Out of balance. And so what I wanted to do, I thought it would be funny if I produced a book called Together is Better, and then you just read it on your phone. But that's funny to me, right? And so I tried to make it impossible to go digital. So first we illustrated it, which makes it only available in sort of like color and high-end sort of devices not unlike your standard Kindle or Nook, right? Because it's pictures in color. And then I had a custom scent designed by these amazing people at a company called 1229. It's the smell of optimism. For reals. On page, whatever, 4. And then you just sort of rub the page delicately. It's not scratch and sniff. And it smells really good. There's no digital device that can replace this book. And at the back of the book, on page, at the end, 142, 43, there's music. This book has its own song. And that song was composed by the wonderful Grammy-nominated artist Aloe Blacc, who like me, is out there fighting the good fight, spreading positivity, spreading working together, spreading helping each other out, doing as much good as he can do using his gifts. And Aloe happened to have a song called "Together Is Better," and so I was like, "Hey." And he was like, "Sure." And so all the handwritten pages, by the way, are actually my handwriting. It's not a font. I actually wrote it. And so I asked Aloe, I'm like, "Hey, we're going to put your song in the back of the book. You actually have to write the lyrics." So that handwriting is actually Aloe's handwriting. He wrote it. So what a joy that I get to introduce my friend, my collaborator, my co-conspirator in spreading good in the world, Aloe Blacc.
How you guys doing? Thank you, Simon, for the introduction and for the book and for the words and for the wisdom. I think if you all turn to page 142, I'm going to read from the book of Simon. Sing you good word. Yeah, it was just a great coincidence. You know, this song was written by my tour guide the first time I went to Ghana. The song was written by a guy by the name of De La Fumador. And he sang me the song, and I thought it was beautiful. And I said, "I love this song, Della. What are you doing with it?" I have it on my CD and I just sing it wherever I can. I share it with people here in Accra and in Ghana. I said, if I have a chance, I'm going to take this song and I'm going to share it with the world. And I think what better opportunity than in a brilliant book like this with such a positive message. It's healing, teaching, sharing, embracing, lifting. So, I'm going to sing the song, and I'll sing a few more. But this one is for all of you who understand. Hold my hand so we don't slip on the rocks. They say the mountain is so hard to climb, and the valley steep to go. Together is better than one. Hold my hand so we don't slip on the rocks. They say the mountain is so hard to climb, and the valley is steep to go. Together is better than one. Hand in hand we will get to the how strong he may be, lean on me and I'll lean on you. Together is better than one. Every man needs a hand to hold, no matter how strong he may be. Lean on me and I'll lean on you. Together is better than one. Hand in hand we will get to the top. Hand in hand we will run down the valley. Hand in hand we shall overcome. Together is better than one. Hand in hand we will get to the top. Hand in hand we will run down the valley. Hand in hand we shall overcome. Together is better than one.
Thanks a lot.
I learned about Simon's work through a friend of mine who was raving about the talks that he had seen online. And so when I finally met Simon, I just walked up to him and I basically fanboyed him. And it turns out though that as I still struggle to kind of find my why, you know, I feel like I'm in a good place, but the catalyst that helped me get to where I am now was losing my job. I worked in corporate America. I was a business consultant at a big, you know, back then it was one of the big five. It's not, I don't know what it is now. And it inspired the lyrics to this next song, which became my first major success. It goes like this. I need the dollar, 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 that's what I need. Hey, hey, said I need the dollar, 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 that's what I need. Hey, hey, well I need the dollar, 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 that's what I need. And if I share with you my story, would you share your dollar with me? Hey, hey, bad times coming and I reap what I done sow. Hey, hey, well let me tell you something, all that glitters ain't gold. Well, it's been a long old troublesome road, and I'm looking for somebody come and help me carry this load. Said I need a dollar, 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 that's what I need. Hey, hey, well I need a dollar, 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 that's what I need. Said I don't know if I'm walking on solid ground, 'cause everything around me is falling down, and all I want is for someone to help me. Said I had a job, but the boss man let me go. He said, I'm sorry, but I won't be needing your help no more. I said, please, Mr. Boss Man, I need this job more than you know. But he gave me my last paycheck, then he sent me on out the door. Hey, hey, said I need a dollar, 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 that's what I need. Hey, hey, well I need a dollar, 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 that's what I need. Hey, hey, said I need a dollar, 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 that's what I need. And if I share with you my story, will you share your dollar with me? Hey, 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 hey. Won't you share your dollar with me? Come on, share your dollar with me. Come on, share your dollar. Give me your dollar. Share your dollar with me. Come on, share your dollar with me. So sometimes I miss going back to work. Had a chance to have some pretty awesome, lucky moments with songs, and this next one just happened to be, you know, kind of a confluence of my past and my present. I grew up doing a lot of hip-hop music, playing hip-hop music and recording and rapping, but at a certain point, hip-hop didn't speak to me anymore, and I felt like, well, I just wasn't willing to get shot 9 times like 50 Cent, so. I wasn't cool enough. Singing worked. I saw Cat Stevens on a TV commercial. I was like, I want to do that. He looks like he believes what he's doing. And so I started writing folk songs. I started listening to singer-songwriters, and I came across, you know, a lot of Elton John and Bernie Taupin songs. And I took this Your song, the Elton John joint, and I sort of turned it into a hip-hop song, and then disappointed Elton John. But that said, I was able to gain a lot of fans from it. And I heard he wants his plaque, because I borrowed his lyrics, so he's entitled to his plaque, and we'll send it to him as soon as we're done here. We'll send it to him. You can tell everybody, yeah, you can tell everybody, go ahead and tell everybody, I'm the man, I'm the man, I'm the man, yes I am, yes I am, yes I am, I'm the man, I'm the man, I'm the man, I believe every lie that I ever told, paid for every heart that I ever stole, I played my cards and I didn't fold, well it ain't that hard if you got soul, this is my world, somewhere I heard that life is a test, I've been through the worst but I still give my best, God made my mold different from the rest, and he broke that mold so I know I'm blessed, 'cause this is my world, stand up now and face the sun, won't hide my tail or turn and run, it's time to do what must be done, and be a king when kingdom comes, well you can tell everybody, yeah you can tell everybody, go ahead and tell everybody, I'm the man, I'm the man, I'm the man, yeah you can tell everybody, yeah you can tell everybody, go ahead and tell everybody, I'm the man, I'm the man, I'm the man, yes I am, yes I am, yes I am, I'm the man, I'm the man, I got all the answers to your questions, I'll be the teacher, you could be the lesson, I'll be the preacher, you be the confession, I'll be the quick relief to all your stressing, this is my world, it's a thin line between love and hate, is you really real or is you really fake, I'm a soldier standing on my feet, no surrender, I won't retreat, 'cause this is my world, stand up now and face the sun, won't hide my tail or turn and run, it's time to do what must be done, and be a king when kingdom comes, well you can tell everybody, yeah you can tell everybody, go ahead and tell everybody, I'm the man, I'm the man, I'm the man, well you can tell everybody, yeah you can tell everybody, go ahead and tell everybody, I'm the man, I'm the man, I'm the man, yes I am, yes I am, yes I am, I'm the man, I'm the man, I'm the man. So even though I may have disappointed Elton John, I made a real good friend out of Don Schlitz, an amazing songwriter. He wrote The Gambler. And he was excited to meet me as much as I was to meet him because he was a fan of this next song that I wrote. I wrote this song with Mike Einziger from Incubus and Avicii from Sweden. Sometimes I don't think about what I'm saying. And then I get caught up at a roadblock. But it's a special song, and touched the world in a really big way, and it's one of my favorite songs that I've written. So hope you enjoy it, and I hope you get home safely and enjoy the book and share it with your friends. Feeling my way through the darkness, guided by a beating heart. I can't tell where the journey will end, but I know where to start. They tell me I'm too young to understand, say I'm caught up in a dream, and life will pass me by if I don't open up my eyes. Well, that's fine by me. So wake me up when it's all over, when I'm wiser and I'm older. All this time I was finding myself, and I didn't know I was lost. So wake me up when it's all over, when I'm wiser and I'm older. All this time I was finding myself, and I didn't know I was lost. So if you know the song, I want to take this opportunity to sing the chorus one more time. But you gotta sing with me, and you gotta clap and sing, but if you don't have coordination, just clap, it's fine. So wake me up when I'm wiser. All this time I was finding myself, and I didn't know I was lost. I tried carrying the weight of the world, but I only have two hands. I hope I get the chance to travel the world, but I don't have any plans. Wish that I could stay forever this young, not afraid to close my eyes. Well, life's a game made for everyone, and love is the prize. So wake me up when it's all over, when I'm wiser and I'm older. All this time I was finding myself, and I didn't know I was lost. So wake me up when it's all over, when I'm wiser and I'm older. All this time I was finding myself, and I didn't know I was lost. 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 So wake me up when it's all over, when I'm wiser and I'm older. All this time I was finding myself, and I didn't know I was lost. Thank you. Thank you, Simon. Willie Applin up on the guitar. Thank you, Willie.